And looks like we are off. Both players starting with Flashman. I'm going to do my very best to commentate this race. Anybody that knows me knows that I am usually a zipless runner of this game, and in normal mode. A lot of people say that's easy mode. But I've seen so many runs of this game that I feel like I can still describe the zips and the tricks that they're going to be pulling off. So this first section of Flashman stage is very straightforward. It's a lot of running and shooting, just trying to have efficient movement, get through the stage as quickly as possible. You don't even have to really kill everything, you're just trying to get through. Both runners approaching the boss door in Flash. The Flashman fight, when you're doing it in Rockman 2 mode, can be a tricky fight. You've got to land a lot of shots on Flashman, and the goal here is these runners want to take Flashman down before he uses his Flash Stopper and freezes the screen and eats up more of their time. VonRufiou gets that takedown. Mr. DNA getting stopped, but still getting through pretty quickly afterwards. Oh, good. I see in chat that these two racers have faced each other already. So this is really interesting. Really interesting that they're facing each other again. And hopefully I was reading the standings correct on the tournament page to understand how one of these racers is going to move on. So this is going to be a great set of races today. VonRufiou just starting to enter Heatman stage. Mr. DNA right on his heels. And in this stage, we'll see our first zip. They go to Flash to get that item 3, and as they come down a ladder in about the middle of the stage, they're going to use that item 3 to get pushed up into the ceiling. And that's how most zips are initiated in this game, is you've got to get pushed into the ceiling, trigger a zip with either the A or the B button, and I don't know if there's a wiggle involved too, and there's people that know this way better than I do, but trigger the zip within a few frames of hitting the ceiling. And then that will push Mega Man through the walls so that he pops out the other side. Here goes VonRufiou. Let's see what happens here. There we go. Pushed up, zips across, and that saves a lot of time right there. Like I said, zipless runner. Normally I have to go through all those little towers and enemies that are in there. And I, for the life of me, don't know how to do these Yoku blocks. I've tried it a couple of times recently doing some Mega Man 2 randomizers. I can't do this. It's impossible. These guys are amazing. VonRufiou using Flash there to save some health so he doesn't get hit by that Stomper. That Stomper does a good amount of damage. Mr. DNA takes that damage. Two different approaches there. VonRufiou loses a little bit of time by menuing. Mr. DNA saves a little bit of that time, but you can see VonRufiou's life is higher, and you might want that against Heatman. Now, this fight is a tricky little dance. You've got to time things really well to not get hit by Heatman. Heatman does a lot of damage if you get hit by that fiery dash that he does, or his body, so you've got to make sure that you dodge that. VonRufiou taking a hit there. And there's a lot of RNG in this fight as well. Heatman can stand still with his fire going for 30, 60, or 90 milliseconds, I believe. And so he can give you a great pattern if he doesn't stand still for very long, or he can give you a terrible pattern if all the time he's just standing there doing nothing. And luckily, these players are doing Rockman 2, where we get the Japanese text in these cutscenes. These cutscenes are really long, and if you play Mega Man 2 and you get the English language on there, it takes even a little bit longer. So getting through those cutscenes as fast as possible is good for everyone's sanity. VonRufiou entering Airman's stage, and Mr. DNA looks like he's about the same amount of time he was in the last stage behind VonRufiou. Not far at all. So it's really still anybody's game. This is way too early to say anything about what's happening. Now VonRufiou is coming to a part that absolutely terrifies me. I don't know how to do this section with item 1s, and it's just this is so clenchy. I don't know how runners get through like that, but VonRufiou makes it look easy. Mr. DNA is also looking good. And Mr. DNA is through as well. Well done. Oh, a little dicey there for VonRufiou. These fan guys, as they're trying to blow you backwards, can mess up your day if your timing gets thrown off, especially with the birds and their eggs. There's a lot going on in this last little stretch of Airman stage, and it's really easy to make one small mistake, especially on that. I think it's the second to last fan man. The timing there can be a nightmare, especially if any sort of little thing goes wrong. Now let's see what VonRufiou can do with Airman. Airman has 5 different patterns that he can throw with these tornadoes of his. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're really bad. And so depending on the patterns he gives you will determine a lot of what you can do. Mr. DNA is in a tough spot right now. His life is very low. He's going to have to get really lucky with the patterns and execute them really well to survive this fight. So far, looking really good. And Mr. DNA pulling off an amazing fight there to get through and not take a death. He didn't get touched by anything in that fight, which is really, really good. And he had to do some maneuvering too. It wasn't just that he could stand there and hope that the tornadoes don't hit him. He had to jump through and kind of weave through things. That was really nice. VonRufiou heading into Clashman. I guess in Rockman 2 I have to say Clashman. I'm used to saying Crashman. But there is a great zip in this stage. VonRufiou is about to set it up here. Wants to get pushed up into this ceiling. And now VonRufiou is going to go out of bounds for a little bit. This looks really weird. I don't know the exact sequence of things here, but the game just got confused. The game doesn't really know what screen Mega Man is on at the moment. And he takes a death. VonRufiou just died. But where VonRufiou gets to respawn is way up farther in the stage, about halfway through the stage. So that zip, it's a really amazing zip. Take a death on purpose, but get respawned way farther. And you didn't have to go through some tricky rooms with some jumps and everything else. Mr. DNA following up with the same zip. Oh no! Wait! I didn't even notice that. Mr. DNA... To my eye, it looked like he did it right. The out-of-bounds movement and falling down while charging heat. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but he went back to the beginning of the stage. I hope there's some experts that can tell us what happened there, because I've never seen that. That's the first time I've ever seen that. So that's going to give VonRufiou a healthy lead here. Mr. DNA will also be a little bit low on item 1 for the rest of this stage because he had to use them to try to get the zip the second time. So this is problematic in more than one way. You need to walk around twice. Thanks, Handsome, for clearing that up. Mr. DNA must have only done 1 lap around the screen with the little screen wrap when Mega Man is out of bounds. Screen wrap twice. Yep, there we go. Okay. VonRufiou beginning quick. Yeah, not on purpose, I believe. Yeah, I think that was just a miscalculation there. I'm glad there's people that know, because I do not know these out of bounds tricks at all. I know I've seen them done a million times, but I don't know what the actual sequence of events is in making them happen. VonRufiou executing the quick zip, getting that one. He turns the lights back on. From what I understand, there's a way to leave the lights off, and then you have to go through these out-of-bounds screens blind and do it for memory. But if you do, you can save a couple of frames. I think that's all it is, though, is a couple of frames. So VonRufiou comes back into bounds. Such a strange zip. You're out of bounds, now you're back in bounds. Grabbing an extra life, okay. That is a good idea, because in any percent in Rockman 2, the way these guys are going, VonRufiou took an intentional death for the zip. VonRufiou on another zip here. This one can be scary. Wow, that was really well done. If you zip all the way out of the side of the screen on the one VonRufiou just did, I think you soft lock the game. So you have to do a little wiggle right when you're hitting the edge of the screen. And it's possible to wiggle quite a bit farther out to the left and be safe, but of course you're going to eat up more time. Oh, that last clash bomb was a little rough. VonRufiou was looking so good through that stage. Okay, Mr. DNA setting up the zip here. Gets that space in there, goes up into the ceiling, turns the lights back on. And VonRufiou heading to Woodman. Mr. DNA using flash there because that beam will catch you, because you're coming into the screen from a different point than you normally would when you wouldn't have to use a flash stopper. Anyway, I was saying grabbing that extra life is a good move because you take intentional deaths to do the zips in this game. VonRufiou, on the stage that he's on wood, is going to take another death when he does another out-of-bounds zip in just a little bit here. Mr. DNA setting up the final zip. Oh, gets pushed out to the side, unfortunately, and he's going to go for a walk. I think that's a good move at that point, because with that stomper there, trying to get that that zip set up again, I think would be really difficult. So VonRufiou is out of bounds, and now he's back in. I missed that part. I was watching Mr. DNA's screen. So VonRufiou doing a zip here. Okay, now this is the zip I'm used to. He's going to go into this ceiling, and this is going to force him out of bounds. He's going to run through a good handful of screens here. The game gets confused and thinks that you're on one screen when it shows you another screen. So he's still running through a screen, but we just can't see which screen it really is. He's going to do a couple of fancy maneuvers, weapon swaps and whatnot, and climb up a ladder to a fake screen, down here to another fake screen. And he's going to charge heat, and he's going to take a death. But this is a great zip, because where do you regenerate? Where do you get to come back? Right at Woodman. You don't do most of the stage. It's pretty cool. Mr. DNA onto Metal Man. I believe the level selection there toward the end of the game really doesn't matter. It's really just personal preference. So VonRufiou clearing out Woodman with the air shooter. If you were doing this in normal mode, you would use heat on Woodman, because you can do it in one fully charged heat blast. But in difficult mode or Rockman 2, the air shooter is more effective, because you wouldn't have to charge the heat blast, whatever it's called, the heat weapon. You wouldn't have to charge that twice. Mr. DNA sailing across the top of Metal Man stage. That item 2 maneuver is always a lot of fun. VonRufiou doing a zip in metal. And he's right through. Yeah, I was just wondering the same thing. I noticed in chat, Handsome was saying is wondering how many lives Mr. DNA is on, and I wasn't really keeping good enough track. So this could be really interesting. If he's on his last life and he goes for the out-of-bounds zip, he will die, but then he'll have a game over, which could be really problematic. Then he would go back to the beginning of the stage and have to do it all again. So he's going to go to Bubble. Mr. DNA using the item 2 to sail across the top of Bubble Man stage. I love this strat. Another good item 2. We use this in zip lists. So it's those item 2s feel really good when you just kind of sail across a whole bunch of the stage and don't have to do it. It's kind of like with zips, I suppose. VonRufiou onto Bubble Man, onto his last stage. Mr. DNA is heading into the Bubble Man fight. I'm going to try to pay attention to how many lives he has to see if he has any lives and can do the wood zip. So VonRufiou has been playing really solid. He's nearly a stage ahead. We'll see what Mr. DNA does in Woodman. I still haven't seen how many lives he has, so this will be interesting. He does have one. Okay, I finally paid attention well enough. So he has one. He will be able to do the zip here without taking a game over. All right, and here we have Wily 1 for VonRufiou. Mr. DNA is about to execute that out-of-bounds zip as soon as his flash stopper runs down. Item 1, there goes into the ceiling. VonRufiou despawning some birds and eggs there on his item 2 ride. That was kind of slick. I don't know if I've seen that very many times. That was kind of cool. And then the bird is funny. The bird, when it hits the far edge of the screen, when it leaves the screen, will despawn a sprite somewhere else on the screen. And so VonRufiou had managed to have the bird despawn one of those toothpaste things that comes out that he was right in front of, he was about to run into, and it despawned right when he got there because of the bird despawn. That was pretty slick. All right, item 1, hop in. Oh, he's half laddered. Oh, I guess that's fine. Okay, and then there's a vertical zip here. Ooh, I don't know if he meant to not do the vertical zip there into that ceiling, or if he realized that his item 1 was too tight and he just decided to grab the ladder. I think if that was the case, if that was just like a backup strat and realizing that your item 1 is not really where you want it, that was a really good adjustment on the fly by VonRufiou. I'm gonna assume that's what happened there. Okay, Mr. DNA heading into Wily 1. So VonRufiou nearly with a Wily 1 stage lead here. If VonRufiou can just play clean for the rest of the game here, he will take this game. A lot of times taking down the dragon is a formality with the quick boomerang. It's amazing how many things in Rockman 2, Mega Man 2 are vulnerable to a boomerang. These big bosses, a dragon and a guts dozer, really don't like a boomerang. Okay, Wily 2 for VonRufiou. And yeah, he's filling up, I think, his item 1 right there, because he's going to need it here. There's a zip at the beginning of the stage, and this one is terrifying. This one always makes me super nervous. Oh, he's going with item 2. Oh, but he placed the item 2 just a little bit high. He realized it. These are really good adjustments by VonRufiou. He jumped and placed item 2 at the same time, putting it up just a little bit. If he would have ridden that item 2, he would have run into the wall and fallen down into the spikes. So VonRufiou adapting to maybe the amount of resources he has, the item 1s and 2s, and making adjustments on the fly. Mr. DNA coming in, going for the vertical zip, getting it, locking in. Okay, Mr. DNA getting that vertical zip, so that's going to help him out. Yeah, Zelda boomerangs just stun enemies. Those are really weak. Why are the boomerangs in Mega Man so strong? But they are. And VonRufiou using a flash stopper for those final chompers, which is a good move there. And Mr. DNA, oh good. Mr. DNA got hit by a fireball up there, but I've used that strat myself where you're on the top block, and if you get hit by a fireball, most often you'll land on the block a little bit farther down and to the right where he's standing right now. That's a good way to have a safe fight, because if you do get hit, you probably won't fall down into the pit at the bottom of the screen. So that was a good fight there. VonRufiou on the Pico Pico robots. Mr. DNA, I think that's a good choice. Mr. DNA filling up his item 1 and then going to item 2 to sail across this spike pit here. VonRufiou finishing off those robots. Mr. DNA going the other way. He grabs an E-tank, which might be useful later. An extra life, also a good thing. And switching to wood so that he doesn't have to pick up all of those item refills right there. VonRufiou skipping across the you can't see my air quotes, but the water in this stage. This doesn't look like water. I think this is Wily's septic system. And Mr. DNA heading into the robots, the little robots for the end of Wily 2. I do feel like Mr. DNA is making up a little time here. It's still a good amount of time to catch up, but VonRufiou just needs to play clean. Let's see how VonRufiou does with the Guts Dozer. Yet again, an enormous boss, looks really intimidating and scary. All you have to do is hit it with some boomerangs. Almost a 3 jump. VonRufiou will be moving on to everyone's favorite stage, the purple one. This is the stage where anything can happen. So, I think most of the time when you're racing this game and you get to this stage, you're just crossing your fingers that you make it through without dying. The speed really doesn't matter that much. It's just about not dying on Wily 4. Mr. DNA jumping into the pool here. And VonRufiou getting a zip out of his item 3 there. I'll skip that screen. Really nice. And using that item 3 there to get that off-screen grab way up high and get that little mini zip. That was a nice one. Item 3s are really, really important in this game. VonRufiou taking the low road there, running across the spikes and iframes, which always scares me, but I know it's very doable. But item 3s, and sometimes item 1s, but when you grab a ladder off screen in Mega Man 2, you want to push down, just in case anyone's ever new to speedrunning this game. When you grab a ladder off screen in Mega Man 2 or Rockman 2, and you grab it off screen and you push down, then on the next screen, after the screen scrolls back up and you push up, Mega Man gets this cool little boost. It's not a zip exactly, but it's a nice way to skip climbing some ladders. VonRufiou with a nice zip there. That's another one of those zips where you can soft lock the game if you fly right out the right side of the screen, so you got to wiggle your way in. It also puts you in a great spot to start taking out these boo beams, so that you're right there at the top able to shoot at the first one instead of having to climb up there with an item 1 or an item 2 or whatever. Well, VonRufiou missed that double wall shot, but he's going to be just fine. But getting that double wall shot is a big advantage, because then you save your crash bombs for the Wily machine. So VonRufiou has no crash bombs left, and he won't be able to do the really fast Wily machine fight. Alright, and it's refight time for VonRufiou. Mr. DNA running on those spikes. Mr. DNA on another screen that's always kind of scary, using the item 1s on those spikes to get up through the screen without touching the spikes when you're vulnerable. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of time to get used to that. Okay, Mr. DNA at the bottom of the stage now. He's gonna item 1 his way up here for the zip. And he gets in, and he's gonna wiggle. He wiggled a little far out, and that's the art of doing those zips, those ones where you can soft lock the game, is you want to be safe. You want, oh no, he hits a boo beam on his way down, so now he's gonna have to climb back up with something. He's using an item 1. He's gonna try to get back up to the top. This screen is so weird in the way that it draws everything. We might not see much of Mr. DNA for a little while as things are exploding, and there's so many sprites on the screen that the game sometimes has a hard time drawing everything to the point that we can see it when there's a stream. But Mr. DNA with the double wall shot. Nicely done there. And he's going to try to do the damage transfer. His life is too low for the transfer. That was a really good read there by Mr. DNA. If he would have run into that other boo beam for the damage transfer, he probably would have died there. So he's got 1 crash bomb for the Wily fight, and that might still help him out. VonRufiou finishing up his refights. He's going to grab the health off of Flashman. Mr. DNA starting his refights. VonRufiou on heat for his weapon. And then back to metal for the final version of the Wily machine. Wily does suck up a lot of ammo in this part. And there we go, VonRufiou is going to fall through the floor, head on to the alien. Mr. DNA has done a great job of catching up. I think he did close the gap a little bit, but it's looking like, unless anything horrible happens, unless VonRufiou gets an alien hug, this is pretty much VonRufiou's game here. And some of the best music in the game here. Airman not helping out at all Mr. DNA there. Mr. DNA wanted to use Leaf Shield, which is Airman's weakness, but Airman blocks those Leaf Shields really well with his tornadoes, so you have to get the right tornado pattern to be able to use the Leaf Shield well. And VonRufiou taking damage from the bullet so that he can land a lot of bubbles. you just really don't want to hug the alien. I forget what the number is, but the alien does a tremendous amount of damage. You do not want to touch him. And there we go, VonRufiou with a victory here. And he's reporting an SRL time of 29:56. GG, that's a sub 30. And it looks like that's also a race PB for VonRufiou, so double GG, well done. I was going to say, I think Mr. DNA has an E-Tank that he picked up way back in Wily 2, and he wisely uses it there, and he had that extra crash bomb, so there you go. That's another great way to take down the Wily machine without just spamming metal all the time. Yeah, make it through the fight with your E-Tank. Use that crash bomb on Wily's second form, because you can take him right down. Now Mr. DNA will just take the jog through the corridor here. No, he's not going to jog. He's going to zip. And there we go. I'm not very sure on this particular zip in this corridor, but since it looks basically the same as the one in Quick and the one in Wily 4, I'm guessing that if you flew right out of the side of the screen, that would be another soft lock potential zip, I'm guessing. But that was a nice zip there. I always forget that there is a zip there. I just run through the drippy acid stuff, whatever that is. And Mr. DNA finishes off the Wily alien. Well done. And GG to Mr. DNA as well. SRL there is reporting a time of 31:52. And so we'll see what happens in race number 2. VonRufiou takes this first one. All right, yeah, this chat confirming that yes, you can soft lock if you're doing the zip in the alien corridor, and then if you fly right out the side of the screen, you will soft lock there. So there's, I always thought there were 2, but apparently there's 3 places that you can soft lock by zipping, being overzealous in your zipping. So I think the racers will take just a short break, and we'll get race 2 started here in just a little bit. All right. Well, I can see in SRL that the racers they're making the rematch and they're entering that race. So once that is done, we will be starting this race in just probably about a minute or something like that. So stick with us, and we'll be having race number 2 in just a minute. And away we go. Race number 2 is underway. Starting with good old Flashman again. I like this stage just from the standpoint that this is what Mega Man is good at, and this is what he was meant to do. Run and shoot and jump. There you go. That's all you have to do here. Nothing fancy. Just get to the end. I was about to say VonRufiou with the slightest of leads here, but VonRufiou getting hit by the tin can and Mr. DNA squeezing his way through, so he made up a bit of time there. So they're really close together, probably about a half a second apart right now. Maybe a whole second. And here's that flash fight again. The goal is to not see the flash stopper. Let's see what happens. Flashman being a little rude to Mr. DNA there. After the flash stopper, running way off to the left, and I don't know if that's a normal thing for him to do after the flash stopper there, but in a bad position where Mr. DNA wasn't able to get his final shots in there. So a slight lead for VonRufiou, but it's way too early in the game to really say anything about it. They've got to play through way too much stuff. Here we go into heat. The first half of this level is similar to Flash, where you're just running and shooting, never stopping, and then finally get our first zip in about halfway through the stage. That item 3 throw right there that we just saw from VonRufiou is a tricky one. It's a tight fit to make that item 3 actually lock on to the ledge and then be able to get back and then make the jump to it. I've tried it a whole bunch of times and I can't do it. It's a hard one. Okay, VonRufiou gets that zip. Now he's gonna go to the Yoku blocks of terror. At least they are for me. And Mr. DNA with the zip as well. VonRufiou making it through. Looks like this time VonRufiou not going with the flash stopper, so he's going to take damage there. It's a little bit faster because he didn't use do a menu change to flash, but he's a little lower on life. Last time he did use flash to not get hit by the stomper there. Mr. DNA taking that hit as well, and now it's the heat dance. Okay, VonRufiou makes it through. He did take a hit in the last part of that fight, where he did have to dodge a few more movements by Heatman. That was a little bit nerve-wracking there. And Mr. DNA didn't get touched. So right about the same spacing between their runs again, just like last time. Pretty consistent so far. And into Airman stage. A very nerve-wracking level. These item 1s in the early part of the stage after the big spike heads here. Definitely not something I would enjoy learning. It's probably a lot of falling into a pit and dying many, many times. So here goes VonRufiou. I mean, the way that they have to take damage on purpose in some sections and stay on the clouds or their item 1 platforms, it blows me away. And Mr. DNA makes it through as well. So we're really seeing a repeat of the last race here. This is looking pretty much identical. VonRufiou with a small lead, but both racers performing pretty well, looking good. And there's that nasty spot again. VonRufiou just made it with where there's the fan man and the birds, and right in front of a pit. It's a tricky spot. Here's Mr. DNA coming up to the same lace, or did no? Okay, he's coming up to it now. I was a couple of platforms behind. So here's the spot, and that's just fine, not a problem. Okay, let's see what kind of pattern VonRufiou gets from Airman. His life is a little bit lower than he was last time. He takes a hit there. There's nothing you can do with that pattern. That third pattern by Airman, that wasn't the best. And VonRufiou takes a death. That's rough. Mr. DNA's life is in the in the middle. So if he dodges like he did last time, he's in a good spot. But Airman, that pattern, man, that's not the one we want to see. So Airman being a little difficult here. He's not being a friend. But Mr. DNA makes it through without a death, so he takes the lead. Nicely done. No, that pun was not intended. It blows you away, blows me away. That was not intended. It's just good luck. And remember, taking a death for VonRufiou there is a little tough, because as they do these out-of-bounds zips where you have to take a death on purpose, VonRufiou is going to be thinking about that now. He's going to have to figure out how to get an extra life somewhere along the line to make up for that. And here we go, Mr. DNA going into Clash Man. So this is going to be one of those out-of-bounds zips that will claim a life. Mr. DNA this time, I'm sure, will remember to wrap the screen twice. Shouldn't be a problem at all. Okay, there we go. Mr. DNA getting that fast forward to where Mega Man regenerates at the checkpoint, because they confused the game to the point where the game wasn't really sure what screen they were on, thought they were farther through the game than they might have really been, and then puts them here. So this is looking really good. We're getting real close now. A couple of different strats through there with the item ones. I love how everybody uses item ones a little bit differently when they're climbing the crash or clash stage. Oh wow, and we are nearly synced. VonRufiou making up a little bit of that time that he lost from his death at Airman. Good movements, good, really good movements at the ladders to get every little bit of it and not climb so much. Lost just a hair there, but look at this. This is nearly... Oh wow, they are in sync. This is looking good. We've got a race. Well, VonRufiou getting an unfriendly pattern out of Clashman there, so it looks like Mr. DNA got the kill first. We have a race, folks. This is tight now. This is looking good. All right, and both players heading into Quickman. Okay, both players getting the extra life there. I was wondering what they would do with that, and they both need that extra life for the death warps that they do when they get those weird zips. Okay, let's see how they handle the zip here. This is going to be a big factor in how fast they get through. VonRufiou locks into it just a hair faster and reclaims the lead just by just a little bit, fraction of a second. There's that flash stopper, because that beam will get you. VonRufiou grabbing that extra life. Mr. DNA passing it on, so he's going to make up a little bit of time. Just another fraction, but you know, when we're this close in sync, those fractions really matter. So now the big zip at the end here. VonRufiou gets it real nice. Wiggles in really well. Mr. DNA gets the zip. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And there he goes. And VonRufiou, really nice takedown of Quickman there. With crash bombs, that's really scary, because everyone knows what happens when you miss a crash bomb. It goes flying and sticks to a wall and explodes, and you can't shoot another one until that exploding crash bomb is gone. So both players really well dealt with Quickman really well there. That was really nice. And this is interesting now that they've gone to different stages. Mr. DNA going to metal first, VonRufiou going to wood. I don't think there's an advantage. I think it's more personal preference. VonRufiou with that nice little mini zip there as he jumped into the screen transition, flying through just a little tiny section of wall there. That was kind of cool. I don't know if I've seen that one very much. And he's going to go out of bounds now. Mr. DNA going to use an item 2 to fly across the end of the stage here. He's got a good placement. Looks like he'll have some smooth sailing. Alright, and he enters Metal Man's door as VonRufiou is about to take that intentional death. And Metal Man is fun too. In case you've never done it, if anyone's really new to Mega Man 2 or Rockman 2, before the fight starts, when you fight Metal Man, you want to hold the B button down, and that just auto shoots quick boomerangs. But as long as you don't press the B button when the fight has started, you don't really activate, that's in air quotes, activate Metal Man, and that's why they can just kind of hop up to Metal Man and hit him with about 4 or 5, I can't count them, but hit him with those boomerangs before he even does anything. It's kind of a free fight. So hold the B button before the fight starts. It's kind of fun. Okay, VonRufiou into metal, which Mr. DNA has already completed. So it's a little hard to tell what's going to be happening here with them going different levels, because they're both looking really good in what they're doing. So I couldn't tell you if anybody's got a lead, and since they were so close coming out of the quick stage, we're not going to know until they sync up again, until they both get to the same stage. So then they're both hitting a zip, a short metal zip for VonRufiou, a big bubble zip for Mr. DNA there. And VonRufiou will be heading into the Metal Man fight here momentarily. Mr. DNA is at the end of bubble stage, just has to get past the waterfalls. So yeah, I think they're both doing really well, and it's hard to say, again, where they are exactly. So VonRufiou is going to be holding B button right now, kind of jump in. The other thing you don't want to do is pass the halfway point of the stage to activate Metal Man too early. And that halfway point, if you see that central gear, it's right on the middle of that central gear. So just don't go past the little, the axle of that central gear, and you're good to go on that metal fight. Okay, VonRufiou takes Metal Man down. Mr. DNA takes Bubble Man down. Mr. DNA will warp out here in just a second. It takes forever to warp out of Bubble Man stage. The water seems to slow down the teleport out of the stage. It's really weird. So VonRufiou does Bubble last. Mr. DNA does Wood last. We're gonna have to see what happens when they get out of these stages to know where we are. And VonRufiou with a really interesting strategy there to get through the frogs at the beginning of Bubble. I'm not familiar with that one. The item ones to sort of skip around. Those are some tricky maneuvers. VonRufiou getting the bubble zip. No! He got pushed out to the wrong side, so he's going to try again. And there it is. Okay, so I wonder if that will be, you know, enough of a change for Mr. DNA to take advantage. Mr. DNA with the same trouble there, getting pushed out of the wall instead of getting the zip. So, in a way, they just balanced each other's mistakes out right there. Not a problem. We'll just keep it nice and close. So Mr. DNA is out of bounds right now. VonRufiou is into the hallway for Bubble, so it looks like VonRufiou does have a lead, because all he has to do is take down Bubble Man. Mr. DNA has to get to the hallway, the corridor of Woodman still. He will be there just shortly. VonRufiou with the unlucky 3 bubble pattern out of Bubble Man. It's so laggy, it slows everything down a lot. Okay, here we go. Mr. DNA getting into Woodman's chamber. This is still pretty close, though. This is it really is still anyone's game, because any mistake at this point will change the game quite a lot. So there we go. Mr. DNA finishes off Woodman, and we can get an idea of what the time difference is. Maybe pay attention to when they warp into Wily 1. But they're both on the flying saucer screen, so yeah, this is still really close. A lot of things can happen. Warp in at 1802 for VonRufiou. See what happens on Mr. DNA's side. 18-18, so it's a 16-second difference right now. That's not really that much. VonRufiou doing the vertical zip there. And he'll show up at the top of the next screen, which is kind of crazy. He didn't do any of that screen. Mr. DNA using item 2s to get up this wall, which is a lot harder than it looks. To get the spacing on this item 2 is really tricky. VonRufiou this time getting the vertical zip after the item 1 climb. He didn't get that last race, so that's really nice. Ooh, Mr. DNA being pushed off of his item 1 there, and he's going with the backup, item 3. So he doesn't get that vertical zip, so VonRufiou is extending his lead here. Okay, VonRufiou with that dragon takedown. Mega Man just on his tiptoes. Wow, Mr. DNA threaded himself into that vertical zip real nice. He didn't have a lot of room, and he placed that item 1 just right, moved Mega Man just right. That was really well done. And VonRufiou begins Wily 2. He's going to fill up something. I don't remember what he was filling up. It's probably item 2. I think that was what he was doing last time. So there we go. Item 2 ride. And Mr. DNA finishes off the dragon. Okay, VonRufiou on the second ladder this time. Last time he went to the first ladder. This time he's got that E-tank and that extra life. I'm not sure why there was a difference in his 2 routes on his 2 runs here. Mr. DNA just starting Wily 2 now. He's going to refill some item something. I'm not sure which one that was. Looked like that might have been item 1. And he's on his item 2 now. Or maybe that was item 2 and he just refilled item 1. I can't keep track. There we go, Mr. DNA. Taking the same route as VonRufiou. VonRufiou onto the Pico Pico. Alright, VonRufiou jumps out of Wily 2. Mr. DNA jumps into the pit with the Wily 2 boss. So we're still fairly close. I would still pay attention to what happens with the rest of this match. VonRufiou is going to jump into the pool. Oh, he's going to get a refill first. Okay. And there we go, Mr. DNA taking out the Pico Picos. I don't know about you, but in the screen that VonRufiou is in right now with all the spikes and you're falling down through the water, that was so terrifying when I was a kid and I got to these stages and you didn't know which way you had to go and all that sort of stuff. It's just one of those things that you take for granted anymore when you've run the game a whole bunch of times. That's one of those screens that you don't even think about. But back when you were a kid and you saw those spikes and you were falling through them, it was terrifying. Alright, VonRufiou at the Guts tank. Going for the guts tank with those boomerangs. Getting some hugs. Is it just me, or is this little corridor right here where Mr. DNA is, that looks like a P-trap, right? You know, the bend at the bottom of your toilet? So I think my theory on that is Wily's septic system, that's confirmed. I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, VonRufiou, on to the best stage, the purple stage. Mr. DNA is going to take out this dozer. Wily sure does like his guts robots. Got to recycle those. Okay, a little vertical zip here. And then he'll take VonRufiou to the top. He's going to get this little top zip. Whoop. Nice one. Mr. DNA going into the beginning of the stage. So we're on the same stage here. Taking damage on purpose to run along those spikes. Sneaking under the barrel. That's pretty cool. And now this screen, I still hate it. VonRufiou makes it look easy. And Mr. DNA going after the vertical zip. Well, VonRufiou sets up the final zip. And now wiggle wiggle. There we go. Couple of wiggles there, but it's not a problem. VonRufiou pops all the way out to the far side of that wall there. Shouldn't be a problem. He just has to change the order that he does the shots on these boo beams here. And he's going to go for this double wall shot. This is the tricky one. I think it's only 3 pixels that you have to hit. And he gets it this time. Last time he struggled with that one. Mr. DNA dropping into my favorite spike room. Same strategy as VonRufiou there. Looks really good. Making it look easy. And now it's Mr. DNA's turn for the final zip in Wily 4. Into the wall, and here comes the wiggle. Ooh, that was a good wiggle. He had a couple, he stopped pretty far away from the edge of the screen. A couple of wiggles away, but then I think it was his third wiggle that made him travel right close toward the edge. It was really good. Made up some good distance there. And probably some time as well. Okay, here comes his double wall shot. He's got it. As VonRufiou starting to clear out robots. Alright, Mr. DNA has a crash bomb. If I recall, VonRufiou has 1 crash bomb. I wasn't paying enough attention at the end of VonRufiou's Wily 4. I don't think he got the damage transfer that would save you 2 crash bombs. And Airman is just not helping today at all. He is not being nice to either runner. Bad patterns, hard patterns, patterns where using Leaf Shield is just not going to help you. Always having to do Buster or sit there and dodge for a long time. It's just not a nice guy. Okay, VonRufiou still with the lead, but I think I have a feeling that Mr. DNA has made up some time. VonRufiou is on his last Robot Master. Mr. DNA is on heat. Let's see what happens here. He wants that refill. Okay, VonRufiou onto the Wily machine using a few metal blades. Oh, he did save 2 crash bombs. I was wrong. So he gets the fast Wily fight there. Having 2 crash bombs is what you need. You just do a couple of metal shots. That allows the Wily machine to get into the right position because it has to be moving to the right to be hit with the crash bombs and do all that damage. And VonRufiou gets it there. So that's a big boost. That's a really big boost. Mr. DNA has 1 crash bomb. That's going to help, but to have 2 is a pretty big deal. And VonRufiou going for the zip this time. And wiggle, wiggle. And there we go. So barring any alien hugs, VonRufiou might have this all wrapped up. Oh, he's getting a little low. Okay, well done, VonRufiou. Way to finish off the alien. GG. SRL is reporting a time for VonRufiou of 29:37. That's 2 race PBs in a row for VonRufiou. Well done. Some very good runs there. All right, Mr. DNA, a GG as well. I know he's still got to go get the alien, but a good game from Mr. DNA. Kept it quite a bit closer. And in light of that, VonRufiou improved his race time again. Mr. DNA with a really good run. He's getting a little low. All right, Mr. DNA, just a formality here to finish off the alien. It's funny that the alien is only vulnerable to bubbles. I never understood that. There's a lot of other weapons that do things besides bubbles. Why bubbles? Crash bombs might have been good, but you can run out of crash bombs really easily. Maybe that's why. You get a lot of bubbles. You know, Mr. DNA kind of did this last time in his alien fight. He's got some serious dodges there. Never getting hit by bullets or the alien or anything. Just kind of weaving through everything and then throwing up a bunch of bubbles. It's looking really good. Well, GG, Mr. DNA as well. And let's see if we can get some runners in here to talk to them and see what they think about this. All right, does look like we've got that they say they can do some interview time. So I'll wait for them to pop in here, and we'll see what they have to say about their runs.
Okay.
Hey, I think it's VonRufiou. Hello? I think I heard you there and then you disappeared.
I'm not hearing you somehow. I don't know why.
Okay, I'm hearing you now. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Okay.
All right. Well, VonRufiou, GG. Tell us what did you think about those races today? How'd you do?
Okay, good. Okay. I can hear you from the stream. I don't know if Discord works.
That might have some delay, but yeah, we could do that. Yeah, how did your races go? Tell us about it.
Well, it's a.
I think we're having some technical issues here.
Oh,
there you are.
runs of 29. So it's good stuff for like compared to like later races. I haven't had like a 29 race in this tournament yet, so I was pretty happy with this stuff, and I hope I will like improve from this.
Yeah, these were some really good races. It looked like in SRL that you got a race PB twice in a row. That you got that first sub 29, 29:57 or 58, something in that area, and then this one with a 29:37. That's really great. Look.
Yeah, I was happy about both of the races. First one was super nervous. My hands were like so stiff from the nerves. I didn't get anything like, but in the second one I get the mistake in the air stage, so aim stage. So that was that was a shame.
Yeah, I think in general though, I mean you did really well. Had some good clean runs. Of course, we're always going to make mistakes, but I think that in these two races they were pretty minor. That airman, yeah, he was a jerk, but what can you do? What's next for you? If I'm reading everything right, you're moving on to the next part of the tournament, right? To the bracket.
Yeah, I didn't like I. Yeah, I'm moving to the brackets. I'm really waiting for like I'm excited for who I'm gonna face next. The competition is gonna get a lot like stronger, so I need to like improve a lot. I need to start getting like 28 runs, like race runs. So I have some kind of chance at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll look for you. Yeah, good luck in the next part of the tournament. Mr. DNA, are you there? Can you hear me? I think you might be muted. We're having some good technical issues as well. Not muted, push to talk enabled. This is unfortunate. I don't know if we'll get to talk to Mr. DNA. We'll try for just one more minute and see what we can do here.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
There he is, Mr. DNA. You're here.
Hey, all right, finally.
Yeah, there we go. That I was just saying I see a mic with a slash through it next to your name, and that's gone now, so we can hear you. Yay!
Yeah, I just had to mute and then unmute again, and then
yeah. You know, Discord will do those things. Yeah. So, Mr.
So
DNA,
I have one question.
Yeah.
If I can ask a question real quick. When you're damage transferring Wily 4 boss and you don't have enough health, will it kill and still be okay? Or like I bailed on it because I wasn't sure.
No, I actually said something about that. You bailed on it, and I think you were smart because I think you will die and you will not go on from the stage. I think. I'm not 100%, but I think that's right.
Okay, I'm glad I did that. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is on the second race, for some reason I had my live split set to compare to my sum of best, and I didn't realize it. So the whole second race I thought I was like way behind, but I was actually on PB pace. And I realized it in Wily 1, and that's why you can see I started playing a lot worse.
Sometimes changing your splits just makes it worse. It's funny. Yeah, we've all done that. It happens. Live split will do those things. It's weird. Yeah, so how'd it go in general? I mean, you had some really good races, your second race especially. I mean, VonRufiou improved his race PB quite a bit, and you kept up a lot more in that race, so it must have been a pretty decent race for you.
Yeah, that was definitely like closer to my peak, like what I can really do. Definitely haven't put as much time as some of the other racers have, but I'm just really happy that VonRufiou he's not at his race PB is not quite as good as his real PB. Like, he can definitely improve some more, but it's nice to see that he had some good races here. So. Yeah,
they were good races to watch. The second race changed leads a good couple of times. It was a really fun race. So yeah, GG to both of you, and really glad I got to be here to commentate today. So yeah, if you guys have anything else to say before we go.
No, just congrats VonRufiou, and good luck in the bracket stage.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks everybody at Speed Gaming for putting on these tournaments. These are always a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing commentary even if I'm not in the tournament. So really good stuff. I put the links for the...
Yeah, thanks for like stuff and things to drop by here and commentate for short notice. And thanks for Mr. DNA for good races. It was good stuff.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I put the link to their channels up in the chat, so if you haven't followed these guys, definitely go over to their channel, give them a follow. It's very worth it. And yeah, this is Stuff and Things, and we'll catch you on the next one.